Thanks for joining us once again on The Bright Side. I want to talk a little bit more about the electrical nature of food, our main point being that we eat for electrical energy. We eat for the electrical qualities of food. Whether we know it or not, when we eat, we're choosing foods, we're preferring foods anyway, that are electrically active. By choosing these electrically active foods, or by amping up, by turning on electrical energy, we can eat less food. If you're one of those folks that finds that you can't stop eating food, chances are you're not getting enough electrical energy from foods, which means you're probably eating a lot of dead food and a lot of processed food. A McDonald's hamburger doesn't count as an electrically active piece of food. No fast foods, for the most part, are going to count as electrically active pieces of food. That is processed fast food. Vegetable fast foods, or spirulina fast foods, or sprout fast foods are loaded with electrical energy, and one of the advantages of eating these kinds of live foods is you're going to eat less calories. Same is true about amping up the electrical energy of your food. If you can amp it up, if you can turn up the electrical energy of food, you're going to eat less. Yesterday, we talked about Celtic sea salt, really any sea salt, or rock salt, or Himalayan salt, and nutritional oils will increase the energetics of food. Combining salt and oils is one of the all-time great strategies for losing weight and eating less calories. Combining avocados with salt, combining nutritional oils and salt and vegetables, roasting your Brussels sprouts with oil and Celtic sea salt, using sprouts and oil and salt. Get yourself a box of sprouts, get some spicy sprouts, throw on some Celtic sea salt, put on a bunch of oil, and eat that box of sprouts. And I guarantee you that's going to be one of the most filling meals you ever eat. It's going to cost you $3, and you're going to get lots and lots of electrical energy. Another great way to amp up electrical energy is use water. Use lots of water with your foods. This is one of the reasons why liquefying foods is such an important health strategy. When you liquefy foods, first of all, you're going to get better absorption. It makes it easier for your body to handle the nutrients. It's like pre-digesting the foods when they're liquefied. But liquid foods are also more electrically active. Liquid soups, juices, smoothies. They're easier for the body to process because they are, in essence, pre-digested, but also the water content makes these foods more electrically active. Eat watery foods. Drinking water is probably a good idea with your meals. It's probably a good idea to drink lots of water, actually. But if you're eating live foods like sprouts and like vegetables, you're going to get water in a structured form. Water in a live food has a certain kind of chemical structure. It may come as a surprise to you, but there's actually two types of water. Or more accurately, there's two phases in water. There's an organized phase, or a structured phase, and there's a disorganized phase, a chaotic phase. When you eat live food, you get organized, structured water. And this is one of the reasons why eating live foods, eating the water content of live foods, can be so filling and so satisfying. Water is super interesting stuff. Despite the fact that 70% of our planet and our bodies is composed of water, most of us still don't have a good grip on how we can best leverage the power, the electrical energy of this ubiquitous substance that's so vital to life. You can go 2 months without food, but if you don't have water for 2 weeks, you're going to be lucky to make it even 10 days without water. Most people probably wouldn't make it 1 week without water. Basically, no water, no life. When it comes to eating and when it comes to health, and please do not underestimate the unbelievable importance of the relationship between eating and health, of the relationship between food and health. When it comes to eating behavior and health, you want to eat light, you want to eat less, and you want to eat liquid. Light, less, and liquid. When I say light, I'm talking metaphorically light. That means we want to be eating not heavy foods. We want to be eating lighter foods. Lighter foods have more electrical energy. And we want to eat foods that contain light energy, like live foods, like vegetables, like sprouts, like spirulina and chlorella and seaweed. These are all foods that are close to light. They've trapped the energy of light, and they haven't gone down the food chain. They're closer to photonic light energy. Sprouts, vegetables, seaweed, chlorella, spirulina. We want to eat less Every single study, nearly every single study that's been ever done on longevity shows that the less you eat, the longer you live. And common sense will tell you the same thing. The less work your body has to perform processing foods, digesting foods, clearing poisons out of the body, the more energy it has to grow and repair. Now, certainly you want to get your nourishment, but the less calories you eat while maintaining your nutrients, I call it the CRAN diet, calorie restriction, adequate nutrition, or calorie restriction, optimum nutrition, the healthier you'll be and the longer you will be living. And if you're dealing with autoimmunity or any kind of immune disease or any kind of inflammatory disease or any kind of degenerative disease, eating less foods is one of the most powerful, all-time great strategies for helping yourself feel better and accelerating the healing and regenerating process. And eat liquid. Eat water. Liquids are so important. Smoothies and juices. Grind your foods up. Back in the late 19th century, the great Austrian visionary, philosopher, inventor, Victor Schauberger developed some very important ideas about water that can be applied to fluid dynamics, fluid movement, fluid dynamics and fluid movement in the human body. Schauberger studied water in nature. He studied how rivers flow, how springs move, and many of his understandings about the movement and the energy conduction, the energy production of moving water can be applied to the human body. I'll tell you what I mean when we come back from our break. I am Pharmacist Ben. You're listening to The Bright Side on the Genesis Communication Network. Our number 855-660-4261. We got more good stuff coming up right after this break. Don't go away. We're talking about the electrical energy of food. When it comes to eating behavior and health, you want to eat light, you want to eat less, and you want to eat liquids. The whole idea of eating liquids is based on the fact that liquid food is pre-digested, and also based on the fact that when liquid sloshes around, when water moves around, it becomes electrically conductive. This is something that Victor Schauberger, the great Austrian philosopher and inventor and visionary, talked about back in the 19th century. Schauberger studied vortexes. Vortex is water moving towards the center. Movement of water towards a center creates this shape that we call a vortex. And vortexes create much more electrical energy than when fluids are chaotically spewed outward. Schauberger noticed that when water spins towards the center, as in a vortex, there's more electrical energy than when water spews outward. According to Schauberger, this spinning vortex, which is technically a vacuum, the spinning vortex that's created by liquids has an oxygen trapping effect. And where there's oxygen, there is electricity. A vortex creates electrical energy via an oxygen trapping effect. Schauberger believed that a healthy body was in a flowing biomagnetic state, and disease is the opposite. Disease is a clogging of this spinning, flowing, oxygen trapping, electrically charged fluid system. This is we've talked about this before, that clogging and inflammation and lack of movement is the core, the root of the disease process. As long as you have particles in fluids, whether those fluids are lymph or blood, as long as you have little pieces, particles and fluids, you're going to have conduction of electrical energy. This is why it is so important to keep your lymph moving and to keep your blood moving, and this is why blood clotting and blood clogging are precursors to the disease process. The way rails carry a rail car, water or fluids carry electrical energy. Technically speaking, it's the combination of solids in the water that accounts for a liquid's electroconductivity, which when it comes to food is an important point to keep in mind. Pieces or solids in liquids, in flowing liquids, conduct electrical energy. And generally speaking, the more particles that are suspended or dissolved in water, the more electrical the liquids are going to be. We spent several days talking about the relationship of electricity to taste, and water's electrical conductivity properties are why moist foods, watery foods, taste better than dry food. All water, as long as there's going to be some dissolved or suspended solids in the water, all water is going to conduct a certain amount of energy. That's why lifeguards tell you to get out of the pool when there's a lightning storm approaching. But the most electroconductive water is going to be water that is in movement, that has some kind of flow that's associated with it. And this is why this next strategy that I'm going to tell you about for amping up electrical energy of food can be so helpful. You want to spin your water or spin your fluids in a blender. When you spin your fluids in a blender, you create a vortex. You amp up the electrical energy. You enhance the oxygen trapping effects of the water, especially in combination with electrolytes, potassium, sodium, chloride, magnesium, calcium. When you combine these electrolytes with water and spin them up in a vortex, you create electrical energy, and this is why blended juices or blended vegetable waters or even blended fruit waters can be so satisfying. Even if you just drop a cucumber in a blender with some water, you're going to be able to take advantage of the satisfying, electrifying effect of the liquid. The combination of electrically active particles in a liquid medium with the spinning vortex from a blender creates an electrified liquid that is extremely satisfying. Just a cucumber and water can be super satisfying, and it makes a great diet strategy, especially for you guys on the ASAP. It's called vortex mechanics. Vortex mechanics is the idea of creating energy by spinning liquid, spinning water in a vortex. If you use a high-powered blender like a Vitamix, you can just drop a whole lime or a whole lemon in some water. Not only will you get a tasty drink, not only will you get an electrified drink with tremendous nutritional value and medicinal value, you'll get vitamin C, you'll get bioflavonoids, you'll get essential oils, but you're also going to get an electrified, electrically active, very satisfying, and refreshing drink. These kinds of electrically activated liquids can be especially effective if you feel like you're under the weather or you feel a cold coming on. This is a classic low energy state. You can almost feel the low energy state of a cold coming on. Things start to get a little sluggish. You feel a little bit slow, and you'll say, oh, I got a cold coming on. What you're really feeling is this decrease in the electrical energy in your body. Drinking an electrified liquid, drinking electrified lime water or lemon water via dropping a lime or lemon in a spinning vortex in a blender or Vitamix can be an incredibly effective strategy for helping prevent or helping reduce, at least reduce the duration of a cold. If you really want to go all out, you can actually buy water vortex machines that will so effectively create vortexes that the water, at least according to the claims by the people who make the machines, the water can be so charged that it will actually become structured. Just like the structured water in a piece of lettuce or piece of vegetable, according to the manufacturers of these water vortex machines, you can actually create your own structured water. Now, whether or not these claims are true or whether they have practical health relevance, that's a matter of opinion. I don't know of any literature that supports the claims, but the fact remains that there is an amazing and important relationship between water, really all fluids, especially blood fluid and lymph fluid. There's a critical relationship between water, solutes or particles in the water, and movement. And in the body, this flow of water is unbelievably critical. When we talk about inflammation, what we're really talking about is a clogging up, a blockade of flow. This is the hallmark sign of inflammation, is a blockade of the flow of liquids. When you have a blockade of the flow of liquids, not only do you get lack of nutrients to cells and to tissues, not only do you get lack of detoxification from cells and tissues, not only do you get a lack of oxygen to cells and tissues, but you also get a decrease in this electrical energy. A couple days ago, I got a call from my friend Mario. Mario's mom has Meniere's disease. So Mario calls me up. He says, what can we do about Meniere's disease? Meniere's disease is an inner ear issue that affects your balance, and he wanted to know what can you do, what kind of nutrition can you use. And guess what I told him? I told him, make sure your mom is regular. Make sure she's not constipated. Make sure she doesn't have loose stools. I basically told him that his mom has to work on her digestive system, and it's the same thing that I say when people ask me about arthritis or Alzheimer's or acne. Why? Because all degenerative disease where the body is falling apart, where the body doesn't heal, where the body doesn't recover and regenerate the way it's supposed to, all all of this is the result of inflammation, micro-inflammation at the tiny, tiny level of the cell. Hang tight. I'll tell you what I mean when we come back from our break. We'll take your phone calls as well at 855-660-4261. We're coming back at you. We're talking about movement and electrical energy. I got a call from my buddy Mario a couple days ago. His mom had Meniere's disease, and he wanted to know what he could take. And I found myself saying the same thing I say all the time when people ask me about arthritis or cancer or Alzheimer's or acne or atherosclerosis or whatever. The body is a healing system. We say this every day at the beginning of the program, but if the body's not healing, if it's not recovering, if it's not regenerating, rest assured you're dealing with inflammation. When I say inflammation, I'm talking about micro-inflammation. Many times when we hear the word inflammation, we think of swollen ankles or something, but you have to understand that the swollen ankle or the swollen eye or the swollen joints started out, the inflammation at the macro level, at the big level, started out as inflammation at the micro level, at the cell level. Micro-inflammation at the teeny levels of a cell, and this micro-inflammation is where the disease process begins. Inflammation means stagnation, and stagnation is always the enemy. Just like a stagnated pond or a stagnated body of water is a breeding ground for vermin and for bacteria and for mosquitoes and from everything yucky, stagnation in the body is exactly the same, folks. Stagnation and inflammation in the body are like stagnation in a fetid pond. Our bodies are like fetid ponds of water. Can you imagine health under a condition where our body's fluids aren't moving? Stagnation and health are mutually exclusive. This is the root of all degenerative disease. People, if we are really interested in reversing the degenerative process, in getting our birthright back, our birthright of health and wellness and vitality, we have to understand this connection between fluids that aren't moving and the disease process. Stagnation is the root of all degenerative disease. It's the birthplace of all disease, and it's all because of this lack of electrical energy that is formed when fluids move. Stagnation means fluids are not moving. Degenerative disease means fluids are not moving. That's what it means when we say microinflammation is the cause of all disease. That's it. There's 12,000 different diseases, according to the World Health Organization, and all 12,000 different diseases at their core have fluids that aren't moving secondary to an inflammatory process. Fluids that aren't moving secondary to the inflammatory process means cells that are starving, cells that are toxic, and cells that are deprived of oxygen, that is, cells that are suffocating. And because all disease is cell disease, you've now put in a nutshell, wrapped it up with in a little bow, the cause of all disease. How cool is that? You just heard it on the bright side, no matter what your doctor tells you. Starvation, suffocation, toxification, secondary to stagnation and inflammation. All right, got lots more I want to talk about when it comes to the electrical energy. The electrical energy of foods. We'll continue this discussion tomorrow. Time to hit our phones. 855-660-4261 is our number. Cort has been holding on a long time. What's up, buddy? How you doing? Cort in Missouri.
Can you hear me?
Yes, sir. Welcome to the bright side, buddy.
How you doing? I've been a new listener to your program. It's pretty awesome. I listen to Dr. Glidden and Dr. Wallet, so cool. I guess you'd be number 3.
All right.
But I actually have 3 questions, so I'll be brief. My first one's over calcium.
Okay.
Because I definitely know that Longevity's calcium is really absorbable, and that's what you want to look forward to whenever you're getting calcium. But, like if you're shopping around online, calcium, there's so many varieties. There's calcium carbonate, calcium lactate, calcium.
Okay. We'll give you the rundown on I'll give you the whole rundown on calcium. It's a great question. What are your other 2 questions, Cort?
The other one's about, I don't know if you know about a whole lot about foods, but the next one's about ginger roots, and I do I do listen to your advice, and I drink smoothies every day.
Okay.
And I also just chop up some fresh ginger roots from the store.
Good deal.
And I read somewhere online that it's kind of weird, but that ginger root can inhibit the absorption of fat-soluble vitamins.
I'm not sure how that would work. What's your third question, buddy?
And the third one's over thinning hair. I've heard that nettle root and nettle leaf can help kind of, I don't know, if stop the hair loss or help grow it back. I don't know if you know anything about that.
Let me take those questions one at a time. First of all, calcium is a very tricky substance. It's very, very important. I don't mean to underestimate the importance of calcium, maybe the single most important mineral in the body, arguably anyway. It's got lots of roles to play, but at the same time, you want to be very careful about how you supplement with calcium. Calcium and all mineral absorption requires a functioning fat absorption system, and given that 1 out of 3 Americans is dealing with some kind of fat malabsorption problem, if you don't take your calcium in the correct form, if you don't address digestive issues, and if you don't use cofactors with that calcium may not get absorbed, and calcification of tissue, where tissue actually absorbs calcium or where calcium deposits in tissue, can be a leading cause of death. Calcification of the heart, calcification of the brain, calcification of the kidneys, calcification of soft tissues in the body is a big problem. So you want to be very, very respectful of calcium. As always, with all minerals, the best way to get your minerals is going to be in foods, and this is especially true about calcium, which is such a tricky mineral to absorb. Green leafy vegetables are a great source of calcium. Spirulina has a little bit of calcium in it. Sprouts have a little bit of calcium in it. The reason why you want to focus on food-based calcium is because calcium requires magnesium for its absorption. It requires vitamin K for its absorption as well, and you'll get these vitamin K and you'll get magnesium in a lot of natural foods, the green leafy vegetables and the veggies that contain the calcium. So first and foremost, the best way to get your calcium is going to be from veggies, green leafy veggies. Everybody knows about milk for getting their calcium, but where do you think the cows get the calcium to put in the milk? They get it from the grass. Grass is a wonderful source of calcium. In fact, grass is a wonderful source of a lot of nutrients, and it's too bad that we don't have the digestive systems to eat grass, because there's tons of nutritional value in all kinds of grasses, as you would expect if you've been listening to the last couple of Bright Side episodes. The electrical nature of food is so important, and grass is mega electrically active. So, number one, when it comes to calcium, best source is going to be veggies, green leafy veggies, cabbage, kale, kohlrabi, broccoli. All of these are good sources of calcium. Sprouts are also good sources of calcium. Second thing about calcium is when you take your calcium supplements with magnesium, and take your calcium supplements with vitamin K, and take your calcium supplements with tools for improving fat absorption. Make sure you're using bile salts. Make sure you're using, this is especially if you have a problem with fat absorption. Make sure you're using your digestive enzymes, and take your calcium with fatty meals. If you have a real big problem with fat malabsorption, you're going to want to take your calcium as well as your other minerals with lecithin as well. So it wouldn't hurt us all to do this. At the end of meals, use your calcium, use your magnesium, use your essential fatty acids, use your fatty vitamins at the end of fatty meals, and then take all of these supplements with digestive enzymes, with apple cider vinegar, as well as a little bit of lecithin, especially if you're dealing with fat malabsorption issues. A couple weeks ago, there was an article that was, I forgot where it came out on, but it was all over the news here in Denver, here in Colorado, on the problems with calcium supplementation. Hang tight, because I'll tell you what I mean when we come back from our break. I'm Pharmacist Ben. You're listening to The Bright Side on the Genesis Communication Network. All right, we're talking to Cort in Missouri about calcium and ginger. Calcium supplements lead to heart disease. This was an article that came out a couple of weeks ago. I'm reading it off of Medical News Today. Men who take calcium supplements are more likely to die of heart disease than those who do not take supplements. And you say, what the heck is going on? I thought calcium was so good for me. Now it's associated with heart disease. Well, the problem with calcium is its absorption. Minerals in general are very difficult for the body to absorb. Go dig out some rocks from your garden, drop them in water, and see what happens to the rocks. They don't go into the solution. They sink to the bottom because rocks don't absorb. And calcium from rock forms, calcium carbonate, for example, limestone kind of calcium, isn't going to absorb either, or at least it'll be absorbed very poorly. That's why calcium is such a tricky mineral. And in fact, all minerals are tricky for the body to handle, and mineral supplementation is something you want to be very, very careful of. Now, there's three main kinds of minerals, really. You've got macro minerals that your body needs in large amounts, like calcium, like magnesium, minerals that your body needs in gram amounts, really. And then there's micro minerals that your body needs in microgram amounts. things like selenium and zinc, for example. And then there's the super duper trace minerals, the kind of minerals that you'll find in the plant-derived minerals from Youngevity, the Beyond Tangy Tangerine, and products like that, the Ultimate Classic, etc. So you got three main kinds of minerals. The problem with minerals is not so much in the seleniums and the zincs and the trace minerals, but it's in the macro minerals, because when these things are taken in large quantities and they're not absorbed, they can deposit in the kidneys and the brain and the soft tissue of the body and the heart, and they can indeed be associated with calcification and an untimely demise, as all of these articles that came out a couple of weeks ago are pointing out to. What do? Well, number one, get your calcium and your magnesium as much as you can, your macro minerals, your potassium, your sodium, your chloride, etc., from foods. This is the importance of living live foods, which tend to be rich in easy to absorb minerals. Secondly, use colloidal minerals or use chelated minerals. Use minerals that have been manipulated so they're easier to absorb. In the case of colloidal minerals, it's actually plants that have done the manipulation. In the case of chelated minerals, they're been manipulated in a factory, but the point is they're easier for the body to absorb. Look for colloidal minerals and look for chelated minerals. The most poorly absorbed minerals are going to be minerals like calcium carbonate. These salt form minerals is technically what they're called. So if you're going to use these kind of minerals, if you're going to use any kind of calcium supplements or magnesium supplements, take them with food, take them with bile salts. Calcium in particular, you want to make sure that you're getting vitamin K. Now, we haven't talked a lot about vitamin K, but it's mega important. It's made by bacteria in the gut. If you have any digestive problems, chances are you're going to be dealing with a vitamin K deficiency. And without vitamin K, it makes it much more difficult for your body to process and handle calcium. So it's probably not a bad idea to make sure you're getting 5,000 micrograms or so of vitamin K every day, especially with your calcium. So much to talk about when it comes to calcium and mineral supplementation, but I hope that answers your question about the different forms of calcium. And as far as your ginger root question, ginger is a wonderful herb. It's great for appetite suppression. It's great for appetite stimulation. It's great for nausea and vomiting. Ginger's been shown to thin the blood for folks who are dealing with blood clotting. Sometimes doctors will tell you not to use ginger before surgery, the same way they tell you not to use vitamin E and essential fatty acids before surgery. I have heard about ginger interfering with iron absorption, and you're telling me about ginger and fat malabsorption or problems absorbing fatty nutrients. I don't know of a specific mechanism for that, and I'm always suspicious when I read things that don't explain exactly how the chemistry of absorption blocking works. So I'm going to defer on that to anybody who has can tell me how the mechanism works. Other than that, it's just kind of internet gobbledygook as far as I'm concerned. However, I'm open-minded to that. If anybody out there knows of a mechanism of how ginger can affect or cause malabsorption of fat-soluble nutrients, I'm open-minded. Did you have a third question, Cort?
Yeah, it was about like nettle root. You know anything about nettle root or nettle leaf?
Nettle? Did you say nettle? Nettle?
Yeah, like a little fine.
Yeah. Nettle is amazing stuff. I wouldn't tell you it's going to grow hair on your head, but it is involved with the male hormone system. It's been used to help with acne and other male hormone kinds of health issues. You may want to try it some nettle for male pattern baldness. Male pattern baldness typically is an issue of super testosterone, which is known as DHT. You can see commercials for DHT inhibiting shampoos these days. The best DHT inhibitor I know of is zinc, and anybody who's dealing with any male hormonal issues, really any hormonal issues, should be on 50 milligrams of zinc, and working with sugar too, because zinc is used up in sugar processing. So the more sweets and the more processed sugars and the more refined carbohydrates you eat, the more likely a zinc deficiency is going to be, especially if you're not supplementing with 50 milligrams of zinc picolinate. And like calcium and like magnesium and like other minerals, zinc absorption is dependent on the digestive system, on digestive health, especially if you have fructose malabsorption syndrome. People dealing with FMS, problems with fructose, are known to have zinc depletion, issues with zinc absorption, and may be depleted in their zinc stores, and that is absolutely not a good thing. Zinc is certainly one of the most important of those micro minerals that we need, along with selenium and iron and such, molybdenum and minerals that you need in smaller quantities. So if you're eating a lot of sugar, you're eating a lot of refined flours, please make sure you're taking 50 milligrams of zinc. If you got diabetes also, because of zinc's role in sugar metabolism, make sure you're on 50 milligrams of zinc, and always balance your zinc out with copper. Wish we had more time, Cord. Got to move on. Thanks so much for your call. Julie, what's up? Thanks for calling the bright side. How you doing?
Can you hear me okay?
Yes, ma'am. What's going on?
My husband's 34 years old. He was diagnosed about a year ago with severe aplastic anemia.
Okay.
We tried immunosuppressant therapy last May, and our doctor is trying to get us to go through a bone marrow transplant.
Oh, great. Wonderful.
And so we started looking at alternatives.
There's only one alternative, and I don't mean to cut you off, but it's just, I don't need to hear the details. Aplastic anemia is a disease where your bone marrow and stem cells in the bone marrow become damaged. There's only one reason why cells become damaged. Only one. You tell this to your doctor. There's only one reason why cells become damaged. That's because of microinflammation that surrounds those cells, and microinflammation is due to starvation, suffocation, and toxification. I don't know how far along you are, so I'm not going to tell you what to do in terms of your health, or your husband, that is, but I can tell you that if you have any kind of anemia, that means you're not making red blood cells. That means you're not making, in the case of aplastic anemia, you're not making white blood cells, you're not making platelets either. But if you're not making cells, if cells are damaged, they're being starved, they're being suffocated, and they're being toxified, that means stuff is not moving out and stuff is not moving in. How does inflammation get into the body? How do cells become inflamed at the micro level? Stuff is getting into the system, into the body system, that shouldn't be there, and that usually means some kind of food. Ma'am, do we still have Julie? Julie, are you there? Okay, how old's your husband?
He's 34.
How is how long you been married?
We've been married, it'll be 3 years.
How long have you known him?
Almost 9.
Okay. Do you hang around him a lot?
Well, yeah.
Do you pay attention to what's happening? Like how he's feeling and what's going on as you're looking at him and talking to him and having dinner, etc.?
Yeah.
Good. How's his digestion?
Well, it's always been good.
Yeah, what? Come on.
Well, let me just tell you real quick. I mean, we started juicing 2 weeks ago, and he's been on longevity for 6 days.
Okay, we only have a minute, though, Julie. You're not answering my question.
Oh.
How's his bowel movements? How's his gas? How's his flatulence? How's his heartburn? Anything? Okay, you hear me? You hear where I'm going with this? Julie, nobody has aplastic anemia without having a digestive problem first.
Okay.
Okay? So, you've been with him 9 years. You've been married 3 years. You presumably spent a lot of time with him. You sound like a sweet lady. You probably have a great relationship. Does he fart a lot?
Not that I'm aware of. Not in front of me, at least.
Okay. Does he have heartburn? Does he have any digestive? Yes. Okay. This is what I'm saying, sweetheart. I'm not picking on you. It's just so unfair for doctors who are sworn to help us, who we trust, to not focus first on where the problem begins. Do you see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
He wants to do a transplant. You know how hideous that is?
Yeah.
It's hideous. And he didn't tell you about his bowel movements? About working on food allergies? No. And he wants to do a bone marrow. How do these people live with themselves?
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Yeah. This makes me so angry. And I try to contain my emotions here, but this is just so not fair. Julie, focus on his digestive system. Eliminate digestive triggers. Get him on probiotics. There's so much more. But you see how I'm working here?
Yeah.
All right? We don't want him to have a bone marrow transplant. Yeah. We don't want him to go to the doctor anymore.
Correct.
Julie, send me an email, ben@ksco.com. I'll work with you personally. Put your phone number in there as well.
Okay.
That's all the time we have for today. I'm so sorry, folks, we didn't get to all our calls. I try to get to everybody, but there's just so much stuff to talk about. If we missed you, please feel free to call back tomorrow on the bright side. I'm Pharmacist Ben. If you want to learn more about the longevity products, or if you want to join me in my mission to educate the world about the importance of nutritional supplementation, head over to brightsideben.com, click on the Join the Team link, and check out the longevity products on the shopping cart as well. Stay tuned for Alex Jones next on most of these stations. We will talk to y'all later, folks. Bye for now.